Greetings, everyone. Hello and welcome. I'm out at a beach. My name is Angelic Alchemy Meenakshi, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Alzheimer's, as I recently had a client, a couple of clients, because they're siblings who wanted to help their mother, who's 90 years plus in age, to help her heal, if not Alzheimer's, then at least the symptoms of it. And so we met and we spoke about it. What we do in this case, since the mother was 90 plus years old and beginning to lose somewhat of her memory and getting confused a little bit about her timelines, I did advise them to go in for a surrogate session. What happens in that is, if someone is a minor or in a situation where they're unable to have a session on themselves, then whoever the closest relative is of that person would hold space for them in healing from that, from whatever they're going through. And so, the siblings, who are beautiful brothers and sisters, they had a discussion amongst themselves and they voted on one of them being a channel to this beautiful healing for their mother. And so how this works in surrogacy sessions is that the person who's going to be a surrogate needs to be a clear channel for the healing. And so we actually did a past life regression on her prior to doing channeling in the mother's higher self to ask questions about Alzheimer's and everything that the mother was going through. And so some of the symptoms that they were concerned about their mother was, one, she was confusing her timelines a little bit, beginning to lose somewhat her memories, or, she would have more memories of, as we know in Alzheimer's patients, having more memories of the older timelines. So the timelines of, perhaps when their children were kids much younger. And therefore, they remember people who have passed away and they're not there anymore in this world. They tend to remember them like they still exist. And a lot of that was happening with the mother. And she was also beginning to not want to, follow a regular routine that she used to have before. Like, for example, she needed to be forced and coerced into taking a shower and some of the things of the daily activities, and sometimes being very upset, all of that. So, and there was one main concern that they had. It was with respect to, the main concern that she had was with respect to the sacral chakra. It needed healing because there's something that happened, and there's some things that I won't be able to share in detail. So let's see how. Yeah. So what happened was, earlier in her younger age, before she had her children, she had some sacral chakra problems, which were very, very specific, and they wanted to find out why their mother had to go through that. So that was one of the main reasons. And so we decided to have this session, and her beautiful sister, one of the sisters, decided to surrogate for it. And I think it was pretty beautiful of her to do it, because she kept saying she's not very good at imagination, and she kept saying she can't do it. She's not sure if she can go in and envision things and be hypnotized at all. And so I just told her to, just stay in her heart and just remember that she can do it. And it's all about imagining it and letting go and allowing for things to appear, messages to appear, instead of just blocking them. So we have some tips that I shared with her, and she took some time to prepare for it. And it was really beautiful, because when we had the session, we did her healing, which was very beautiful, very powerful. And then it was time for us to call in. Once she was cleared, it was time for us to call in her mother's higher self. And we did that. Look at the sky and the beautiful clouds there. It's a beautiful day today here. And so it was time to call in her mother's higher self after she was cleansed and healed, and the mother's higher self came in. And so what happened in her session was, she did not go into any past life for herself. So how they worked around for her was, they took her into the same lifetime, within this lifetime, through every step, every milestone of the journey that she and her mother took together. And it was beautiful that they chose her out of all the siblings, because she she, out of all of them, had been with the mother in most of those situations and events, and she remembered them. So it went all the way back to when she was a child, just a regular dinner time and, family dinner. And when she was in surrogating for her mother, she could feel her mother's emotions, her mother's thoughts, and everything that the mother would have thought at that time. And that is the beauty of the session. And she surprised herself, basically. And so we went through every step of the way where her mother went through any form of trauma, pain, suppression of emotions. And as we were going through each one of those, we were asking the archangels and the higher self to keep healing them and removing them from her memory field for her to not keep remembering them as a trauma once it gets healed. And so that's what they were doing. A trauma would come up or an event would come up, and we were like, okay, done, healed. Can you give her healing? Let's move on. And Archangel Michael would put it at the back, so she doesn't have to be bothered about it anymore, because otherwise in Alzheimer's, those memories keep coming back. Painful memories, especially traumatic memories, something that they've not healed prior to that. And so we were doing that, and it was so beautiful because they went into a timeline when this particular client herself, who was being a surrogate for her mother, it's sunset time. She went into a time when she herself had a traumatic event happen in her life, and her mother was there with her. And the time when the event actually happened, she only remembered and felt her own feelings and emotions. However, this time she felt it from her mother's side, and what her mother was feeling towards her as a daughter, towards her daughter going through the trauma. And she felt all of her emotions, and it was very emotional for her to go through this session. And she cried, and she was, healed herself. She healed her mother as she went through this whole experience. So it was really beautiful. And as she came out of the session, she was in tears. She said her face was completely drenched, and she said she needed to wipe her cheeks off. This is the dog part. She had to wipe her cheeks off because there were just too many emotions that she felt, and she could feel the release that happened in the session. Now, when the session was done, it was time for her to watch it once again. And we were wondering how we're going to get her mother to watch it, because she's 90 plus and she has a memory. So she's not out there where, she's lost her memory or unable to function. She's got her memories, but she's just trying to work through them. So on the first night, the daughters asked the mother, and she said, yeah, just play it. And they played it in the background, and she slept through it. The next day, she herself asked to be shown the session in detail, and she wore her earplugs for it to hear it clearly. The next day, she called her daughter, and she said she wanted to speak with her, the one that takes care of her. She wanted to speak with her about something important that had been bothering her all her life. And she said that she had never in her life shared this incident with anyone. So this is the first time she's telling a soul about it. Neither her parents, nor her siblings, no one in her life, nor her spouse, no one knew about this. And the daughter asked her what happened, and it took her a while to phrase all the words, as it was very emotional for her to do it. But eventually, I cannot share what that incident was, but she shared the details of what happened with her. It was a very traumatic event, and she shared it in detail with her daughter. And as she did that, her daughter said, she could put a lot together. A lot of puzzle pieces fell together, especially for the sacral chakra healing that I mentioned earlier. So her daughter put all of the puzzle pieces together and realized that it was basically that particular event that occurred that affected her sacral chakra for years before she had her children. And that was the answer that had not come out in the session yet, because it was really deep. At that point, the higher self had said that there was a trauma. But at this point, because she heard back the session again, her higher self helped her to remember it. And her higher self encouraged her on her own to speak to her daughter and to release it. And there it was. All she needed to do was talk to someone about it. And her daughter said not to hold any emotions for it. And she did express that she held shame and guilt for it, although she didn't do that to herself. It was just an incident that happened to her. And her daughter asked her to release all of that shame, guilt, whatever she felt, to release it to Archangel Michael and to let it go. And she did that. She did that. It was really beautiful. And that was the main cause of the sacral chakra healing that she needed. And it was really beautiful that despite the fact that she didn't have the session directly on her, she was able to tap into it and receive the healing directly and remember that memory herself and finally release it without being asked by anyone in the physical. And then after a few days, I'm still in touch with them. They do write to me to let me know how she's doing. And that's, there's just so much beauty in how she's, you know, changed since the session. She said that she's sleeping lighter. She's looking much better. She does not need to be coerced to have her showers. She willingly wants to have a shower and follow her routine. And she's looking much, much better, much, much more lighter. She does tend to remember more things and more memories are coming up for healing. And as she brings them up, her daughter very wisely, because she's a beautiful, wise elder herself of the galactics, just asks her to release it. She says, okay, thank you for telling me. And I think you can let it go, Mom. And Archangel Michael will take it away. And then she just does like a, you know, in her heart, she just speaks to Archangel Michael and her higher self to release it. That's what I wanted to share. Now, some of the other things that I wanted to talk about related to Alzheimer's that I learned from the Archangels. And I do have to say at this point that I'm not a physician or a doctor or a medical practitioner. So if you have any medical issues, you need to speak with the doctors about it. What I'm talking about is more an energetic and spiritual reasoning and healing, more holistic healing approach towards it. And so Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael were telling me more about it. So the main root causes of Alzheimer's, memory losses, dementia, and all of these functions that are related to the brain are basically the environment that we live in and the toxins and the toxicities that are present in the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the chemtrails that are coming in through the skies. And a lot of it is to do with metal and in aluminum cans and, you know, aluminum foils. And of course, you know, all of us are detoxing from it, trying our best not to use those, but there needs to be a whole purging of it. So what happens is as aluminum and all of these toxins from the food, the environment go into our system, they start clogging the system. It's a beautiful word there. They start clogging the system and it makes it more difficult for the blood to pump oxygen and all of the beautiful nutrients into the body parts. The stomach gets affected. And from the stomach, the central nervous system, the brain definitely gets affected because the oxygen and, you know, doesn't get to the brain the way it needs to. And, you know, the chemical compositions that are required for the same, for the brain to function properly, start to diminish. And energetically, what happens is the left side of the brain gets more impacted, where the ego mind starts to get not crushed, but starts to wrinkle up. And as it does so, a lot of purging starts coming up because that's where you're storing all your emotions, thoughts, trauma, healing needs, memories, all of that. So that starts coming up. Yes, that's how they start remembering things. And also what Archangel Michael and Raphael said is that they live between timelines. So cute. Oh, there's a crab there. Also, what happens is they start living between timelines because they become very connected to the quantum realm. The right side of the brain gets more activated because, you know, if the left one's getting suppressed, the right one gets super activated, and their connection with the divine, with the archangels, with the higher selves becomes much stronger, and they can travel the quantum realm and live in between timelines, in between time and space. That's why sometimes they're a little spaced out and they feel like they don't really belong here, because that's exactly what is happening in the physical. They're here, but mentally they're tapping into a lot of realms. And that's why sometimes when they talk about some things, they seem odd to us, but somewhere they're experiencing it. So it's, you know, so that's what happens to them energetically. And so some of the things that we were talking about are that how we can basically help them is, number one, start connecting more with their higher selves. And as you talk to them, what you're saying to them, you can say to their higher self, you know, okay, let it go. In a way, you're saying it to the higher self, help them to let it go, let it release. And whatever you say to them, you can say to their higher selves. And I'm speaking now with the caretaker, which is mostly a child that does the caretaking. You speak with the higher self and you communicate with the higher self, because they are their higher selves and they're very, very connected with their higher self. So you speak with the higher self, and whatever needs to be done, higher self, this trauma's come up, please release it from her timeline, help her heal it from it, and let it go, because it is bothering her a lot. And you then just watch it go. Number two, helping them detox from the toxins and the aluminum and the metal they might have ingested through their life, knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously, by giving them a lot of smoothies, a lot of juices, celeries, turmeric, ginger, a lot of cilantro, a lot of goodness from Mother Nature's foods. Start introducing that in their diet more than the regular food, which they anyway switch to liquids. They do prefer taking a lot of liquids, so that should help. And number three is, involving them in your life and letting them know what's going on in your life, having conversations like there's nothing wrong with them, because really there's nothing wrong with them. So just letting them know whatever you feel comfortable, letting them know, asking of their opinion and stuff like that. Number four would be using water. The element of water can really help with emotions and in cleansing. So what you can do is you give them water, and if they're going through an emotional trauma or they're getting very emotional about something, you can heal the water that they're drinking, and you can ask them to take a sip. And with the permission of their higher self, of course, respecting all universal laws, honoring them, you can heal the water that they're drinking, put a blessing in the water for them to release the trauma, to heal from it. And then you can give them a few sips of water, or you can heal the shower that they're taking, the water that they're taking for their baths and the shower, and with the intention that that water will help neutralize and heal their traumas, their pains, emotions, and help to bring balance in them. The other thing, and also connecting with nature, so helping them go and connect as much as they can with the trees, at the beaches and water. Again, the water element is going to really help, and as long as you can take them out. And spending time with them. So yes, so those are some of the things that I feel at this point, from what I know so far, might help you all. If you know anyone around you that has Alzheimer's, or any caretakers that are taking care of patients or family members can definitely step in and help them with the healing. I hope this helps you. I hope this helps you. And also we can start helping our children and ourselves by purging, detoxing all of the chemicals and the toxins, metal that we might have ingested through the vaccines and pharmaceuticals, as well as the food that we intake, by sticking more to raw vegan diets as much as possible, clearing ourselves, doing the detoxes with juices, smoothies, whatever you like and enjoy having, and giving it to your children as well, staying away as much as possible from harmful plastics and aluminum, metals, and junk food, which is which has a lot of GMO in it, has a lot of chemicals. So let's start by making a change in ourselves and sending love to our ancestors, some of whom have gone through this, and maybe all continue to heal as a collective. And if anyone's interested, I practice angelic alchemy, hypnosis, quantum regression, which is a hypnosis technique. I have a diploma in hypnotherapy, past life regression. It's a beautiful way of healing. I do work with the Archangels, Divine Source, Divine Mother, Divine Father, and all of the Archangels. We use a lot of sacred alchemy, have very kindly honored me with using for my sessions, which Archangel Metatron and Source have channeled very beautifully for these sessions. And it'll be my honor, if you're interested in having a session with me, you can check out my website, angelicaLchemyHolisticHealing.com, and you can find me on all platforms, from YouTube, Facebook, my website, Instagram, and Rumble. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I love you all. I hope this helps you all. Thank you. Blessings to you all. Yes. Thank you.